Very quickly, guys, before we start, this is a super long video. There's a lot of information in here, a lot of different parts to the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break the video up into separate parts. If you click on the little timestamps, you should be able to click between the different sections. Also, in the description and the pinned comment, I will have timestamps for the different parts of the video, so you can skip around to the parts that you might want to see, or if you want to watch the whole thing, you can do that too. Hey guys, what up? It's Goose TV here again today, and today I'm back with another Madden Mobile video on my channel. Now today's video, guys, I've got a really cool idea planned for you guys. I am going to be kind of doing a mini crossover with console Madden. Now today's video, we are going to be talking about which predictions you should make in the Pro Bowl program in Madden Mobile. However, we are going to be using Madden Console and running simulations of the Pro Bowl on Madden Console to help us out with these predictions. We know that the Pro Bowl is on Madden this year, so by running a bunch of simulations and seeing how that might work, we should be able to make helpful predictions on which of these you should be picking in the Pro Bowl promo. We'll be doing that in this video today. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on my post notifications so you never miss any of my videos. 70% of you guys aren't subscribed, so please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's try to get this video to 200 likes. So before we hop over to Madden Console, what I want to do is kind of go over some of these different ones that we have. So there are 5 different pick'ems, and there are 5 different groups of 2. So basically you have a yes or no question. Do you think it's going to happen or not? And you kind of make a prediction. So let's go over the 5 that are available. So more pass plays than touchdowns scored. This one is going to be the easiest one. I don't know why this is even a thing. There are going to be more pass plays than touchdowns scored, so you absolutely want to get this one, this ballot here. The next one is 2 or more turnovers in any quarter. So obviously there's 4 quarters in the game. If any of those 4 quarters have 2 combined turnovers, whether that be interceptions or fumbles, then you get to select which one you want there. We will show this one actually might be pretty surprising to you, so I'll show you that in a second. The next 2 have to do with AFC or NFC. AFC wins 3 or more quarters or less than 3 quarters, and NFC wins 3 or more quarters and or less than 3 quarters. You can either play the safe route and go both win. You could go even safer and go both lose. We'll talk about which one you should pick here in a second. And the final one is going to be 3 or more touchdowns in any quarter or less than 3 touchdowns per quarter. So obviously, once again, combined touchdowns in any quarter. If there are pretty much more than 21 points scored off of touchdowns, then that is how we're going to make our determination. So let's hop over to Console Madden and we'll show you what I did with these simulations. Before we get into it, here is a quick disclaimer. First of all, there might be a few things off about my simulations. I try to do exactly what would be simulated if they were to just play a full game out, which I would assume they're planning to do, full 15-minute quarters, all of that stuff. The one thing that I couldn't change was quarterbacks. I'm not sure if they're going to manually be able to change the quarterbacks throughout the game. With the way that I did it, I am not able to do that. So if they are going to change that, might affect a few things here and there, and they might do it a little bit differently, but I did my best to try to simulate what they're going to do and what they're going to use for these final Pro Bowl results. Second of all, obviously I'm going to be running this sim a bunch of times and give you guys final results, but at the same time, just because you pick that doesn't mean that's exactly what's going to happen. It just means it has a higher probability of happening. I could be running this sim and there's pretty black and white results on a lot of these things, but then there are a few games of the sim that I'm doing where your stuff can be all over the place, and there's a game that's out of the random that you get pretty unlucky on, but the chances of those happening are a little bit lower. So that's how that works. So don't get mad at me if you choose all the ones that I choose and then something else happens in the game. It's just a very lower probability of that. I hope you guys can understand, but let's get into these simulations. So basically on Madden, there is a Pro Bowl option for you to play with the current Pro Bowl teams. They added this probably a week or 2 ago. What I did is I selected a team, went to the skill level, all Madden, and readied up. Obviously, I'm not actually playing the game, and then with the settings of the game, I made sure it was on simulation, turn the quarter length to a full 15 minutes, turn accelerated clock off to simulate the full 15-minute game, and then we loaded into the game from there. Once you're in the game, I was able to pause the game and then go over to Super Sim. What you can do with this is fully simulate the game. I click jump forward and click the end of game. It goes through, simulates the entire game, and obviously I'm able to view stats and things at the end of the game. So it gives you kind of a fast breakdown of what's going on throughout the game. As you can see in game 1, AFC jumps out to a semi-early lead after the second quarter. NFC coming back 27-17 here. Will the AFC NFC be able to come back? And it looks like NFC is jumping to the 34, NFC up to 24, NFC coming back to within a touchdown, but can't do it. So first game, NFC is able to take it. I'm not going to do a full simulation for that, but I just wanted to show you exactly how this works. So then at the end of the game, I'm able to go over to team stats and make a full kind of breakdown of what's going on. After the first game, as you can see, there's pass plays were obviously going to be greater than touchdowns every single time. There were not more than 2 turnovers per quarter. I was able to look, and you can see what happened on every single play, and you can look at each quarter and see which quarter the different turnovers happened in. That did not happen in this game. AFC was able to win 2 quarters. The NFC was able to win 2, so they both go to no, which is why that is most likely going to be the best pick. And there was actually quarter 2 where there was 3 touchdowns in the second quarter. After game 2, we actually had the exact same result. Like I said, the pass plays, touchdowns, I'm not even going to mention that anymore. That's going to be yes every single time. There's only 1 turnover in the game, in the entire game in the Madden simulation, so obviously that's not going to be more than 2 in 1 quarter. NFC once again 1-2, and AFC once again 1-2, so once again those cancel out to no. And there was actually once again another quarter in fourth quarter where they were actually able to score 3 touchdowns in that fourth quarter. So once again the same result in that. So let's move on to game 3. In game 3, AFC was able to come out with the victory 26-23, a very similar result, except the only one that changed was there was not more than 3 touchdowns in 1 quarter in this game. There were looks like 2 touchdowns with 2, but once again, they actually went to overtime in this game, which was pretty cool. AFC was able to win the first quarter and the overtime quarter. NFC won the second quarter and the third quarter, but they tied in the fourth quarter. So even though they went to overtime, nobody was still able to get that. So once again, those go to no. And turnovers, there were actually 4 turnovers in this game, but what I had to do is go by the play-by-play and look and see who got what turnover in what quarter, and there was actually 1 turnover per quarter in this game, so that ended up being no, surprisingly, in game 3. So once again, another surprising result, and let's move on to game 4. Game 4, AFC is going to take another victory here. Let's see what the results were, and finally we get a little bit different results. Over 2 turnovers. Once again, there's only 1 turnover in this game, so that's not going to happen, but the AFC did win 3 quarters here. They won the first quarter, the second quarter, and the third quarter, with the NFC only taking the fourth quarter. Almost came back from a huge margin. They almost came back, but so the AFC was able to win 3 more quarters, and then the NFC themselves scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but in the first quarter they also combined for 3 touchdowns. So that is a yes. That's our biggest kind of change from those first few games from game 4. So let's move on to the 5th game. The 5th game, the NFC is going to take this 35-31. Once again, not really surprising results. The main one that we did get different here is the turnovers. In the game, there were 3 turnovers for the NFC, and I believe there was at least 2 in 1 quarter. I think they might have actually all came in 1 quarter, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Once again, there were 3 more touchdowns per quarter. The fourth quarter did have the NFC scoring 3 touchdowns, and the AFC actually scoring 1 by themselves. And then they tied the first quarter. The AFC was able to win the second quarter. They tied the third quarter in the NFC, so they were both pretty much 1-1, 2 ties. So once again, 3 touchdowns more per quarter. They did not win 3 more quarters, and that is the end of the first 5 games. Let's move into the next 5. For game 6 here, NFC is going to take this game 23-20, and once again, not a super surprising result. There were actually 0 turnovers in this entire game, so obviously there's not going to be more than 2 turnovers. The AFC won 2 quarters, and the NFC won 2 quarters, so those both go to no, and there was not a quarter where we had more than 3 touchdowns, so actually a pretty boring game here. Not too much going on. It was a close game, one of the closer ones we had in this entire sim. That's it for game 6. Let's move on to game 7. Now, Game 7 was a little bit more exciting, except NFC completely blew out the AFC, which obviously is going to lead them to winning more quarters. They won 3 quarters, and then they tied the final 4th quarter. So obviously the AFC goes to no, the NFC goes to yes. Despite the high score for the NFC, there's actually not more than 3 touchdowns in any quarter. There was a good amount of, there's at least 1, there were, looks like two quarters that had 2 touchdowns. So there was a bunch of different touchdowns, but not all kind of in one quarter. The one thing that was in a lot of quarters, there were 4 total turnovers in this game, and there was over 2 turnovers in one of the quarters. I'm not sure exactly which one. So game 7 had a lot more action for us, a little bit different results. So that's it for that. Let's move into game 8. Game 8 was another close one, and this result is once again not surprising at all. Over 2 turnovers, that is not the case. There were 3 turnovers in the game, and they all came in their own separate quarters. The AFC looks like they won 2 quarters, and the NFC won 2 quarters, so once again, those cancel out and both go to no. And there was the 4th quarter, which actually featured 3 touchdowns. So that one goes to yes for that one. This is your typical one, 2 yeses and 3 nos in general. So game 8 was pretty standard, close game for the AFC, who was able to take it. Let's move on to game 9. Game 9 was the biggest blowout of any simulation we had this entire time. The AFC winning this game 47-10. Oh my gosh. So the AFC's obviously, they won 3 quarters. The NFC actually won the first quarter by just a field goal. But there were tons of touchdowns in this game. The second quarter had 4 touchdowns, so that's going to go to yes. And despite the NFC with 3 turnovers, they all came in their own separate quarters once again. So game 9 did not have over 2 turnovers. This is a little bit different result. One of the bigger differentials and scores we'll have in any of the games. Let's move into the final game 10 simulation. Game 10, once again, another AFC blowout here. And this was probably the most surprising game of any of the sims that I did throughout the whole thing. Once again, a huge blowout that didn't happen very often. There was 3 or more touchdowns per quarter. In the 4th quarter, there ended up being 3 touchdowns. The biggest surprising thing here was the turnovers. There were 8 turnovers in this game, which automatically means that there was more than 2 and a quarter. I don't think I even looked at this. I didn't need to. 8 turnovers. That's the highest amount in any of the sims. Obviously, a big marginal score. And then once again, the AFC was able to win 3 quarters here, the NFC only taking 1, so that's going to go for that. So that was the most surprising result we had out of all of these games. Let's go over our results from the first 10 games. So obviously it was 10-0. Pass play is going to be greater than touchdowns in every single game. There were 3 games where there was 2 or more turnovers in a specific quarter, and then there were 7 where there were not. And then the AFC actually won 3 games with 3 or more quarters won. That's a pretty solid performance. 7 of them they did not. NFC with only 1 game where they won 3 or more quarters. 9 of them they did not. And then 7 games where there were 3 or more touchdowns per quarter, and then only 3 where there were not. Now, after I recorded those first 10 games, I did 10 more games on my own where I didn't record the footage. I just wanted to try to pad some of the stats and things, see if, reduce the chance that maybe it would be a little bit off or whatever. So the next 10 games were actually very, very similar to the previous 10. Once again, 10-0 pass plays more than touchdowns. There were once again 3 games with over 2 turnovers, but 7 where there were not. AFC only won 3 more quarters, 1 game out of the 10, and 9 of them did not. The NFC did better in these next 10. 3 of the games, they actually won 3 or more quarters, and 7 of them they did not. And then there were 3 or more touchdowns per quarter in 6 of the games. 4 of them there were not. So let's go over our final results out of 20 sims, combining our first 10 where I showed you and the first 10 and the second 10 where I did not. There were 20 games where pass plays were greater than touchdowns. That's obviously going to be 20-0. 100-0 every single time you're going to play. That's what's going to happen. There were 6 games out of the 20 where there were over 2 turnovers, 14 where there were not, so you should probably go for the one that is under 2 turnovers. The AFC and the NFC both only had 4 games out of the 20 where they won 3 or more quarters, and 16 games each out of the 20 where they did not win 3 or more quarters. So that is a big difference. And the final one is there were 13 games where there are 3 or more touchdowns per quarter, 7 where there were less than 3 touchdowns in each quarter. So that was a little bit closer, but still it's looking like there will be more than 3 touchdowns per quarter. So let's go on the game and see which ones we should be picking here. So the pass plays, obviously you need to pick the ballot pass plays more than touchdowns scored. For the next one, Now, like I said earlier in the video, the simulation is just a prediction. It's not I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. I'm assuming it's going to be very, very close. And like I also mentioned, the quarterbacks, I could not switch throughout the game. So I'm not sure if they're going to do that or keep kind of Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes in or whatever quarterbacks they're using. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do that. So that might affect the turnovers here and there or who wins what quarter. So there's no exact way to do a full proper simulation, but the turnovers are the most surprising thing to me. If they're doing the simulation exactly like how I did it, then there's a good chance that there's not going to be more than 2 turnovers in a quarter. So I would go with the 2 turnovers not happening. So less than 2 turnovers in each quarter. Then, in general, even if you think about it, the AFC or the NFC winning more quarters, you will 100% get one of them if you get no. You could actually pick yes, and they could tie, and none of them would turn out. So it's smarter. You'll at least get someone who does not get more than 2 quarters, but the higher chances, as you can see, most of the time, they either tied, or there's only a couple times where there are big blowouts where somebody won, most of the quarters. So it is much smarter to go no for both of them, that they do not win. They win less than 3 quarters for both of the AFC and the NFC ones. And the final one is a little bit more up for grabs. 13-7, still not super close, but running more simulations might help a little bit more. With basic statistics, you can the law of averages, as you get more, you'll get kind of a little bit better statistics and things. But 13-7, I'm probably going to choose, because of my simulation, I'm going to choose that there will be more than 3 touchdowns per quarter, but that's a little bit more up in the air, and that is one that maybe, you might be able to play around with and get lucky, or maybe that won't even pan out. Right now, I'm going to play my 5 events that require the stamina, and we're going to get the ballots that I just told you I'm going to get. I'm using it based off my own simulations and stuff, which I think is pretty cool, so let's do this. Some more pass plays than touchdowns scored, absolutely. There is our ballot for having more pass plays than touchdowns. Let's move into the turnovers. I'm going to go with the one that says there is going to be less than 2 turnovers per quarter. There is our under 2 turnovers ballot. Moving on to the AFC, winning more or less. I am saying less than 3 quarters. There is our ballot for under 3 AFC quarters. And next, let's do the NFC one. Once again, less than 3 quarters for the NFC, I think is the smarter move here. There is our under 3 NFC quarter ballot, and the final ballot to grab is going to be 3 or more touchdowns in any quarter. I'm going with my stats, and I'm going to say that there are going to be 3 or more touchdowns in a quarter. And there it is, our ballot for 3+ touchdowns, and now we are done with our predictions. So yeah, guys, that is the video. This is one of the longest videos I've ever uploaded on my channel, but it's also one of the videos that I've taken the most time on, and took forever to record all the stuff, to take all the notes on it. Like I said, record all this footage, edit it all up into a bunch of different stuff. This video took a lot of time, so if you enjoyed it, I'd love for you to leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on these kind of things. Obviously, this isn't going to be, available to do every single time, but we have a really unique opportunity here where the Pro Bowl is going to be crossover with Madden, so I thought I could do a really, really fun video, and I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Today's post notification shout out goes out to Aaron, be the first person to comment on a video for the next video's post notification shout out. But anyways, guys, that is just about it for the video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm Goose TV, and I'm out. I will see you guys later.